Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. So behind me I got a 2002 Acura TL Type S. This thing has a 3.2 liter V6 and the customer is complaining of oil getting on his floor. And there's a very common issue with these cam seal plugs that do tend to leak on these. So today we're going to go ahead and replace that seal. Now before we go ahead and begin guys, if you guys haven't subscribed to the channel, hit the subscribe button down below. Definitely smash that like button because it helps the channel out. And with that said, let's go ahead and get started on today's video. To get started on this, we're going to have to remove these engine covers. Now this one typically has 4 bolts, one here and then all around the perimeter. Unfortunately we're missing one. So what I'm going to do is go ahead and take out the 3 that are left on this particular car. Now your car may or may not have this on top. Sometimes these have gone with the wind, especially when a car is as old as this is. But if you have it, 4 bolts and you are able to get your engine cover out and move it off to the side. Now one more thing that you're going to have to remove is this cover right here. We're using our flathead screwdriver to turn the little tabs that it has, and then you're going to need a clip tool, like a panel popper in a way, to remove the rear clip that's holding it into place, and we are going to get that and move it to the side. Now that we have that out of the way, we have good general access to our area where we're going to be working in, but we need to make a little bit of more room. What you're going to have to do is move this tube that is in the way. So what I'm going to do is come around here and we are going to grab this clamp and just pull out on this hose. Alright, just like that. Now these can be a little tough sometimes, and I do know that this one should just come off of this right there, just like that, whether it has a clamp or not. This is a PCV tube. This one's been modified. Normally there's a coolant hose that goes through it, but it's been modified. The coolant hose comes out the back. So for this video, simply just remove this assembly, and the smaller hose that you can see here has been modified. Typically will carry coolant, so if you remove this all the way, expect some coolant to come out. But on this car, this tube was leaking at one point in time and someone bypassed it and put a rubber hose, routed it through the back of the engine. So that's not going to be a concern for us on this particular car, but it may be on yours, so just be mindful of that. What I also like to do is get my wiring for my coil packs out of the way. There's a bracket with 2 10mm. Just go ahead and remove them. And once you remove those, what you have to do is disconnect your coil packs just by simply pushing the connectors, and you should be able to just go ahead and let them sit off to the side. Now we have access to our EGR. We need to remove that. So what we're going to do is unplug our connector just like that, and there's going to be 2 bolts down there that we need to remove. Let me go ahead and grab my tools and I'll show you guys how we remove it. Alright, so now it's time to get our bolts off. Now I'm going to zoom the camera in here and give you guys a good idea. There's going to be a bolt right there and one right behind it. That's what we are after. Now the actual EGR valve kind of blocks you getting in there with a standard socket. You can try going in there with a swivel like this, but this I find is usually too big to get in there. What I always use on these is a nano socket and a swivel that allows the socket to just kind of do its thing, like a wobble extension. I believe is what these are called. And I get it on there, and don't be surprised if these bolts fight you. These encounter a lot of heat down here, so sometimes they can be pretty brittle. Let's see if we can break ours loose. So alright, we got one off. Now I'm actually surprised because I thought this would give me more of a fight. So now that it's loosened up, what I'm going to do is actually tighten it back a little bit because I'm not able to get my socket out if I don't. It's one of those situations where you got to be able to get your tool out just because of the tight circumstances that you're in here. So let me go ahead and loosen that up and take off this one. And then what we're going to do is go ahead and do the same thing to the rear one. Hopefully this rear one comes off and doesn't fight me here. So let me get in here, try to find the correct angle. Alright, we were able to break them loose. Now I'm removing my tool as soon as I crack them loose, simply because as you guys saw, if you leave your tool on there and you crank them up all the way, they will get stuck on there. You can't get your socket out. Now with the bolts removed, we're going to go ahead and take off our EGR valve just like that, and we have good clear access to where our oil leak is. Now, a lot of people may not know this, but these have cam caps. You guys will see right here, it's kind of circular and there's 2 bolts. And you guys can see how dirty and nasty this is. It's been leaking for quite a while. That thing needs to go. So we're gonna be replacing the seal on there. You guys will, I'll show you how brittle they get here. So the first step to removing this is you're gonna need a 12 millimeter. What I'm gonna do is just use my gun with a swivel bit here. And we're just gonna get in here and take off our 2 retainer bolts. See if I can get in here. Now this other one here is gonna be a little difficult because the stud for the EGR valve is in the way. So what I'm gonna do is just use a regular wrench, see if we can't get that broken loose. And typically these come off pretty easily. It's just the O-ring that holds them on in place. This thing's been on here for about what, 23 years. This car's 02 and we're in 2023 right now, so she's been on there for a while. So I'm going to use my flathead screwdriver and I'm just going to try to find a little area here where I could get in. This is the hard part of this, especially on this front one, is just finding a little area to be able to get your tool in to be able to pop this off. Alright, so we got our cam cap off of there. I'm holding it in my hand. Now you will see that there is an O-ring on here, and this is what commonly will leak. I'm just going to use my flathead screwdriver here, and you guys will see this thing is just so brittle. Let me see if it'll come off here. Just like that. Look at how brittle this gasket is, and it's basically an O-ring design. That's what fails on a lot of these. So what we're gonna do is replace this O-ring. I don't have the exact Honda one, but I do have O-rings that'll fit in here. So what I'm gonna do is clean up this area. We are going to be cleaning up the cap here, make sure we don't got any grease or anything on it. I'm also gonna do a very thorough job here where it was leaking and all the oil's built up. And then we're gonna go ahead and replace our O-ring and go ahead and install it on there. So I have you guys positioned where our cap goes, and you guys will notice it's nice and clean in there right now. I wanted to show you guys how I clean it, and what I use is I have this wand that connects to shop air, and then this black hose also connects to a bottle that I filled up here with some brake cleaner. And what this does, it basically shoots out brake cleaner at high speed, cleans up areas. So let me show you guys how I clean this up, just a quick snippet. Now I've already cleaned it. What I did was I used this and then I used a wire brush to get in there and clean up my areas. But look at how this works. This basically pressurizes the brake cleaner and it'll get off any dirt and grime anywhere that you may have it and clean up your areas to make them look like they're brand new. You guys can see in this one here, let me see if I can put down the wand. Hopefully I don't spill anything here, but you will notice that it is looking nice, beautiful, fresh, and clean. I always like cleaning up the area really well because after you replace the O-ring on this, you always want to make sure that you don't have any other leaks or anything going on with it. So it's good practice to go ahead and clean up your area very well. Now that I cleaned up my engine area that you guys saw using my wand, I cleaned up my cam cap the same exact way. What we're going to do now is I have it on the vise just to make it easier to show you guys on camera. This is the O-ring that I took off of it. As you guys will see, this thing is brittle, very stiff. It's also flattened out quite a bit. Now, Acura, Honda do sell these gaskets. I use these O-rings that I have. They work. These are just a tiny bit oversized, and they help grip it a little bit better. So what I like to do, and I don't know if you guys caught that, but I take some silicone spray and I go ahead and I spray my gasket or my O-ring with it. And then what I'm going to do is go ahead and lay it in there. And one little trick not to break these or tear into them is grab a screwdriver like this. And I do apologize because my hands are blocking. Let me see if I can do this left-handed. But basically take something like this and just kind of wrap it around just like so. And that'll help put your O-rings on, especially if they're a little delicate like these are. Even though they're big doesn't mean they're not delicate. Now that we got our O-ring on there and it's nice and firmly in place, what we're going to do is go ahead and install our cam cap. We are looking at the engine. We got our cap with our O-ring, everything ready to go. One thing that I do want to point out is if you noticed, you have these cutouts on this. This one's actually only going to go in one way. So don't try to force it any way, shape, or form. Just try to remember how it went in. Now the camera is in the way, and I do apologize because when I took this off, I knocked the camera over. I wasn't able to get that footage, unfortunately. So I'm going to move the camera to a different position now because I need to be right about here to install it. So let me get you guys shifted over and I'll show you how we install it. So to install it, what we're gonna do is just go ahead and push it in. And I already put some silicone paste on this. And what I'm gonna do is just go ahead and fully push it until it's seated. Now, one thing on these guys is that sometimes they don't like to go in right away. They may be a little bit difficult, or you know, they won't want to slide in there. You can use some silicone paste; it'll help it out. And if that is also not doing the trick, you know, you just tap it into place a little bit, but be careful. You don't want to overdo it. Now, what I'm gonna do is take my bolts and bolt this back up, and then I'll bring you guys right back in. So the next step would be to clean your EGR flange area. Now I already went ahead and did this, and I used my angle grinder here with my surface prep pad. Cleaned it up, made it nice and shiny. So that way we have a new area where our gasket can bond with the EGR and everything when we reinstall it. So next step that we are going to do is take our EGR valve and make sure you grab this with your gasket and everything. So we have everything in our hand here. And what we're gonna do is go ahead and put it back on. It should just fall right into place. But sometimes what I find is the gaskets will want to fight you. They can be a little difficult, but we got ours on, and there you go. So it goes on pretty simple. Now that we have our EGR valve on, what we need to do is go ahead and take your hardware, which are your nuts that you took off, and we are going to start them off by hand, and then we're going to go ahead and get everything tightened up. Now that we got our EGR bolted up firmly into place, what we're going to do is go ahead and reconnect our EGR plug back on there, make sure it snaps into place. Then we are going to take our bracket with our coil pack wires, and we are going to make sure that we snap it right into place. Make sure these coil pack wires are attached. Sometimes they don't click and you may not have them on there fully, so just be very mindful of that, guys. And then we're going to take our 10mm bolts for our bracket and go ahead and install those. Now I don't really torque these, I just hit them on with a gun. Now that we have that installed, what we're going to have to do is go ahead and reinstall our covers. You may or may not have these covers on your vehicle, so like I said, just be mindful if you do have them, reinstall them. I know that most of these covers throughout the years, especially something like this, it's a little bit older, they do tend to disappear. Now that we have the coil packs and the bracket, everything reinstalled, what I'm going to do is go ahead and take our PCV hose here and go ahead and line it back up. Now typically you don't need to remove the clamp to slide these back on. You just spray it with some silicone spray. It'll help everything slide back into place. Let me see if this will work that way. It doesn't look like it is. Typically they come in and off, but we'll just go ahead and give it the extra slide in here. Now this boot here is not in the best of shape, so you want to be careful not to break it. Honda's had a lot of issues with these intake boots here for quite a few years. This rubber portion right here eventually cracks and breaks apart, and it's just basically impossible to find them. Just very common failure point on them. Now with the EGR valve installed, what we're going to do is go ahead and take our engine covers. Again, if you guys had them, reinstall them. These are quite simple to put back, as you see here. They just snap right in. And after you have that one in, you can actually install your top one. The reason why you install this first is because these interlace with one another. They will use one another to lock down. So as long as you put that in before, typically you're all right. And then what we're going to do is go ahead and start these bolts off by hand. because they will cross thread if you don't. And one of them's already missing, so we don't really got to worry about that portion. So we're going to go ahead and tighten this up. Alright guys, so that's how simple and easy it is to replace your leaking cam cap on these 3.2 liter engines. Now both sides have these cam caps. The passenger side does as well. For that side, it's pretty much similar process, except you got to remove the bracket for the fuel line to get at it, and it's a little bit in tighter spaces. However, our passenger one on this wasn't leaking, so we just went ahead and fixed up and replaced the O-ring on the one that was. It's a really quick, simple, easy process, as you guys saw. The hardest thing is taking it off without breaking it. You got to be very careful, just kind of jiggle it. And unfortunately for me, I was able to record it because when I popped it off, I basically flew with it and wound up hitting the camera, so the footage was unusable. But it makes for pretty funny stuff. Maybe one day I'll gather all of my funny stuff and put it on a reel or something. But either way, guys, it's pretty quick, simple, and easy. If you guys have a massive oil leak that you can't trace down, more than likely it's going to be that cam cap. So please comment, like, and subscribe because it definitely helps the channel grow. Hope you guys have a wonderful day, and I'll catch you guys on the next video.